Yes, my son is very skilled in archery and swordsmanship.
My daughter is very skilled at sewing and cooking.
Splendid. She can cook for him while he hunts. I'm sure going back to a meal after restocking would be more than just a grand scheme of just appreciation.
And by doing so, she would only be honoring our family. I suppose some of the men are quite dashing, but none of them beats the prince himself.
My son does take after his father and the beauty of his mother.
Well, I certainly am glad that he takes after your pretty eyes. Baby Blue will be welcome to my kingdom. I do have to ask him one thing, my fellow queen. When will we continue commencing the wedding ceremony?
Oh my, so eager already to have your daughter wedded to my son.
Well, who would it be? He's Prince Charming himself, and I believe he has something to offer.
Your Majesty, with all due respect, my son is not some Nobel Peace Prize. He is a person, rightfully so, as every other young boy, in fact, that I believe has the rightful height to the throne. My son will be a king, a ruler, with a beautiful wife. For what he has to offer should be out of the question.
Yes, of course. My dearest apologies, but at the very least my daughter could offer way more. She can cook, she can clean, she has immaculate grades, very well educated, and she will be studying abroad for 5 to 6 months. My daughter will offer your son the world, show off her magnificent mind to show him the ways of war, the ways of bettering a nation into something way more futuristic. If you ask me, my fellow queen, it is indeed a very ingenious idea.
Well, your daughter does have basic talent. We could use the alliance to benefit of our ability as one of the most strongest nations. I do believe considering your daughter to marry my son is quite the ordeal.
With all due respects, my fellow queen, you are aware of the bandits, no?
Or what of the bandits?
It's quite unfortunate, isn't it? Poor civilians trying to go through about the day, traveling and selling things, not living and surviving in our conditions, and the nation's own conditions. Bandits seem to have found a gap within the God's territory. One of your knights is slacking off, my queen, and I wonder who it is.
I assure you my knights would do no such thing.
Oh, but how would anybody know? How would I know? As royal rulers, it is your most obscene duty to make sure the bandits and other disturbances that would deter your guests from making a deal with you or making an offer for something better and improved to not be deterred away from your beautiful kingdom now.
And that is a good point.
I have a proposal. I will hire some Sector 7 people.
Those people are outrageous. Are you insane?
Oh, heavens no! Insanity is for fools who don't know how to negotiate properly and survive from the fittest of the win.
I don't see how any of this will assist me in your daughter marrying my son.
For heaven's sakes, your majesty, I believe my god to be more efficient in killing these bandits if you allow us access to a little part of your property.
You're asking for access on my territory to belong to you.
Only this small part of the map? All we want is the region with the most bandits. And if we get that region, then we can stop whatever foolish games are going on, and we can stop the buffoonery. All we need is your son to marry my daughter.
Can you promise me your knights are up to such pristine ability?
Oh my. As one woman to another, it is my most honorable answer that my knights are more than capable. They have been through rigorous training, and through that rigorous training they have learned many useful things, including backup survival tactics. If they lose their swords, they have their combats. If they lose their combats, they have their wits and an intellectual. They have been through multiple neurological tests and multiple mentally deprecating situations. If anything, I think mine might have a grand order of being better than yours, probably even more capable of teaching them some pointers over some lessons. one knight's knowledge passing on to another should be more than a beneficial factor. Wouldn't you agree, my fellow lady?
I see. Then how do you feel about this, my son?
Well, of course you'll get your own personal knight. After all, they could be from my court. I can send you one instant as possible. Or you much rather prefer your own mother do it for you? To have one from your own court, from your own headquarters. I wouldn't blame you. After all, the queen is quiet. She just has a very peaceful aura. If I were the king, I would take mighty good care of her.
Enough about my husband. Our little scandals were ages ago.
But does your son know of your scandals? Very well, as you may be, gracious, beautiful, pristine, handsome, and the glorious prince, you will be inclined to marry my daughter. My fellow queen and I have decided to agree on a few exchanges, one that would benefit both our kingdoms, and both our countries as well, our regional areas of the country. If you have anything to propose, or to opinionate on other than a divorce, remarriage, you are required to have the alliance that you may be with, and soon you will be married and prosper within our riches and within our kingdom's riches. I believe, your greatest prince, that you'll be a great and powerful king. You will rule the lands and you will be feared, and you will get anything you want with this palace, and nobody will even tell you what time you would need to go to bed.
I know this isn't fair to you, but unfortunately you were not born a commoner. You were not born inside of a village, to a free ride, to free will. We are public image. We have to maintain an image in front of the people. Even fit me in sacrificing what we want sacrificing was truly dear to our heart. I know I feel things may seem a little iffy, but you will not be getting married right away. You will have 3 months, unless you can find someone else. This pristine royalty with much better proposals than a longtime friend of mine. As my son, I do want you to be happy, but as the governmental law states, I also don't want you to be convicted of a crime and possibly hanged. I love you way much for you to do that seriously, and I don't think romantic feelings are worth their sacrifice if you can learn to be happy in so many other ways. Romance isn't everything. Freedom is. You can learn and love any other thing. Love is both a curse and a blessing. It can make you and break you.
After all, do you really think we love our husbands? We may have labored children, but it does not mean we're in love. As much as I would love my dearest prince to live his life freely, just like I would love to do with my own daughter, and give her everything I wouldn't have. Unfortunately, when it comes to governmental laws, as your mother has said, there's nothing we can do to change the course of time. The only thing we can benefit is to scurry you around. Do you understand?
Good. When shall we eat?
I thought you would never ask. I was waiting for an excuse to pop up a toast.
Ooh, is it just me? Or has the security been up the ramp today? Queen came to visit. What's the occasion? You usually never have any royalty visitors except your father and your mother, and maybe some, like, great-grandparents. Oh, that's right, you are getting married. So did you meet her? How's she looking? Is she pretty? Is she gorgeous? Is she gonna treat you right? What? You didn't meet her? What do you mean you didn't meet her? Okay, yeah, I know you just said you didn't meet her. Only repeating what you're going to say is going to get you smacked up your head. Well, I don't know. I assume the prince in line for marriage is going to meet his soon-beloved wife. I know it's not your choice, and I know it's governmental law to apply to these rules, but in the meantime...
What did your mother say? So she agrees with the marriage, and by her agreeing with the marriage, she gets the benefits of the other kingdom. I'm assuming 'cause that's how it's always been and how it's always gonna go traditionally. And that's the reason why you stormed in your room like somebody just kicked your ass. Oh, please, I don't work for you, and I'm definitely not a royal. I'm a rogue. So I am not required to speak to you all pretty and shit. I'm sorry, did you want me to be like, oh, my dear prince, I can't help but to feel so sorry of you and your disastrous marriage. I can't help but to feel like you could be doing so many more things if you weren't confined by this change and this torturous responsibility that you will be a greater burden once you become the official king. Oh, please. The only thing I know is more meetings, more paperwork, and, like, other busy shit. However, your father seemed to be living his best life as far as I've seen. Oh, please don't be clueless. He's been prancing around with the other fucking queens. Queen Marshall. Yeah. 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 You always knew there was something up with that woman as well. Like I told you. I told you there was a reason I didn't like her, and it's for a good-ass reason. Like, it was like her vibes. Just spoke gold digger. Even though she's literally rich. She wanted to be richer, I swear. It's like she's, like, addicted to the money just for the sake of being addicted to the money. Well, I would give her a break. She did used to be a commoner. She grew up in struggle, so when you grow up in struggle and then you get money, I guess there's a weighing insecurity that you need more money. I know it's stupid considering you're a spoiled prince that never once had to struggle in his life, but to struggle with his own dear emotions. Truly, I condemn you for that. I'm not mocking you, even if my tone does sound like it. Considering emotions are important, no matter the gender. And you know how I feel about masculinity. Toxic masculinity specifically. It's toxic because it's poisonous. If you ask me, it's why most kings and rulers can be assholes of today, because apparently women are excused to bear their emotions because other women support them. Meanwhile, men like to call it weak. But they also excuse it because they group up toxic masculinity on being ashamed for showing their own emotions. You know, it's not something I agree with, Prince, which is why I always encourage you to talk to me. I know, and you always do. And you always did, but you started doing it less and less the older you got. My guess is childhood has been rough for you growing up. I know. Yep. That's how fathers are, unfortunately. The mothers are the sweetest and the kindest to their little boys. Meanwhile, the fathers are the ones that draw the line, and they make sure that their stunning boys are ready for the real world. Women are attracted to it? It depends if toxic masculinity can be attractive from the outside, but it can also be damaging on the inside. If you ask me, it's the reason why most relationships are unhappy. Because even women can live with toxic masculinity. Just to prove the world that they're not weak, but they're stronger than they seem. Even though on the outside, they look like pretty little things. I think a guy can look a lot intimidating. Yeah. I also think you could use a break, birthday boy. Well, of course I remembered. That reminds me. I got a special present for you. A special experience. All you have to do is come along. That's it. Why, of course we're sneaking out. Oh, trust me. As many years as I come to visit you, King and Queen never walked in. Not together. Not one by one. It was only your servants, and you know they're not allowed to enter without your permission. And as many times as you've been ignoring them for the past couple years, I am more than well convinced that they're used to you giving them the silent treatment. So they most definitely will leave you alone, especially after something like this. It's all the more perfect time for you to sneak out, if you really think about it. Come on, you've been doing this for years. It's time for a change. Instead of being a caged bird of having your life controlled all the time and thinking this is okay, I want to show you. I want to show you what it's like to have control of your own life. And that flashy clothing. Do you seriously think you can blend in? A little bit. Oh, come on, Prince. You're not exactly the most boring of the bunch type of people. Also, considering your mannerism has been royalty taught. I'm gonna have to teach you how to be a bad boy. Oh yeah, you've been so good for your mother and father for so long. I am going to have to teach you the side of what it's like to have freedom. Whenever we were little, you were too scared to come with me. Do you think you can finally give it a chance? What do you say, my dearest Prince Charming? Finally, after all these years, I can show you how to be alive. Well, of course. If we're going to fall, we might as well fall together.